Every bad decision you've made under pressure, the ones you regret, they weren't made by you. They were made by your nervous system. And your nervous system doesn't know the difference between a brutal client call and a lion trying to eat you. That's the problem. There are two kinds of stress in business. The slow kind, the chronic dread, the 3 a.m. spiral, the identity stuff. That's a different conversation. This video is about the acute kind, the stuff that hits you without warning. An angry client on call, a co-founder ambush, a team member who just went sideways in a meeting. The moment where your body hijacks your mind and you say or do something you immediately regret. Most founders never solve this. They mistake their reaction for their character. They think, I just get heated. That's how I am. No, that's your cortisol, and it's costing you. Here's the distinction nobody makes clearly enough. Reacting is what happens to you. Responding is what you choose to do. Reacting is your nervous system executing a survival program that hasn't been updated since prehistoric times. It's our reptile brain taking over. Responding is you, the actual founder, the one who built the company, making a decision with a clear head. The gap between those two is where most business relationships get destroyed. Deals fall apart. Good people quit. Partners lose trust. Not because the situation was unsolvable, but because you showed up reactive instead of responsive. So, here are 3 techniques. I've used all of them personally across 20 years and multiple companies, including during some of the worst moments I've had as an entrepreneur. They work, and they work fast. Fastest to slowest, though slowest here is still measured in seconds. So, technique number 1, break the contact. And no, I'm not assuming you're in a fistfight, but a verbal ambush and a physical one activate the same system in our brain. And the first principle of handling both is identical. Create distance. In a physical confrontation, you step back to get out of the striking range. In a meeting, you obviously can't run, but you can do something that achieves the same neurological effect. You lean back in your chair. You slide back slightly from the table. Or if you're standing, you take half a step back. That's it. It sounds almost laughably simple, but here's why it works. Your brain doesn't separate physical threat from psychological threat. It uses the same hardware for both. So when you physically move away from the source of stress, your nervous system reads it as threat level reduced, distance increased, we are safer. That small movement signals not to the other person, but to your own brain that you are no longer in the danger zone. Fight or flight starts to ease. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that actually thinks and chooses words, starts coming back online. And then you can attack, not from panic, but from clarity. One thing to flag here, the movement has to be natural. It can't look like you're recoiling. Lean back casually. Let it look like you're settling in to listen, which actually is exactly what you're doing. Technique number 2, breathing. When stress spikes, your breathing shifts. It moves up into your chest, short, shallow, fast. That pattern is designed to flood your muscles with oxygen so you can sprint or fight. It also shuts down deep thinking. The moment you notice chest breathing and you pay attention, you will notice it. You switch deliberately to diaphragmatic breathing, belly breathing. Breathe in so that your stomach moves and not your shoulders. What that does physiologically is activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, the one that says, we are not dying, we can think. You will feel the shift within 2 or 3 breaths. It's not subtle. Your thinking actually changes. The challenge is maintaining it under continued stress, which is why this technique pairs directly with the first technique. Once you've created physical distance and bought yourself a second, you can redirect a slice of your attention to your breath and hold it there. So now you're doing 2 things simultaneously, responding constructively to the situation and actively managing your own state. One mistake founders make, they think they'll remember to do this in the moment. They won't, at least not at first. This has to be practiced before the stress hits. Drill it when you don't need it, so it's available when you actually do. Technique number 3, power delay. You have probably heard the advice that don't reply to an angry email right away. You have to let it sit and come back to it when you're calm. The same logic applies in real time confrontations as well. And almost no one uses it this way. When someone comes at you, a criticism, an accusation, a demand, don't answer immediately. Listen fully. Let them finish. And then don't speak. Silence. And here's what usually happens next. They start filling it. They elaborate, they justify, they explain. They add examples to support their initial point. And in doing so, they frequently contradict themselves. They overextend or reveal the weakness in their own argument. You didn't have to find the hole. They handed it to you. But meanwhile, you've been using the time, breathing, settled back in your chair, running the logic, preparing a response that actually precise, not just emotionally charged. If the silence feels too pointed, you can break it slightly by saying, go on or say more. These phrases do something interesting. They give the other person permission to keep talking, which most people read as you being receptive, when in reality you're just buying time and letting them dig deeper. Their stress is rising, your stress is dropping. By the time you speak, you're the most composed person in the room. These 3 techniques aren't independent. Break contact creates a window. Control your breath uses the window to stabilize. Power delay extends the window and shifts control. Run all of these simultaneously, and the effects compound. And suddenly, you're the one responding clearly, while everyone else in the room is still reacting.